first lesson of a SBL, strategic business leader. And so let's start with the leadership and culture. Now, what is a leader? Or who is the leader? Someone who exercise and influence over the other peoples, right? So strategic leaders are mostly concerned with the strategic management. That means the strategic leaders are are the people of the organizations, the leaders who lead the organization from the top, right? And they concern the overall strategic management, okay, which involves planning over the long-term objectives of the organization. What does long-term mean? That is, the 5 to 10 years planning. Now, what are the objectives that which they want to achieve in the desired period? Okay, so they have to implement those plans. The role of the strategic leaders do vary from organization to organization. Well, what are those? It is setting the vision and mission of the organization, motivating people in the organization to work towards it, setting the strategic objectives. That, for example, which products to make, which markets to sell in, managing the change at the organization, decision making. Leaders make long term strategic decisions such as what products or services to provide and which markets to operate in. Determining the organizational structure includes the system of control, monitoring the performance of the organization to ensure that they are on track to meet their objectives and to take action where it deviates from there on. Right? So let us now look at the mission. What is mission? The overall purpose of the organization. For example, Emirates purpose is to provide the pleasant journey flights to their passengers. What's the accountancy mission? To provide quality or education with the comfort, with the flexibility, so that students can study from wherever they want. That's our mission, right? Now, what's the vision? The desired future state of the organization, that where they want to be in 5 to 10 years. For example, accountancy wants to be the global leader of ACC and other finance accountancy qualifications. We want to provide our qualitative services all over the world. In this regard, Cotter said that managers create plan while leaders create a vision, whereas Mintzberg disagreed, stating managers do need a vision while vision needs management. Although there may be differences of opinion about the roles of leaders in the management, and it is clear it involves vision and involves some management as well. In this case, Adder in 2025 discussed the importance of leadership on the function of groups of people. A leader is responsible to ensure that group achieves a task. People within the group are held together as a working unit. The needs of individual are met. Okay, they met. These are the areas that are not separate with anything, but they interact with each other. Now, let us look at the traits. What are the traits? A trait is a characteristic, a quality of person. Early research into what makes a good leader attempted to identify key traits. Key traits, the qualities that makes a person a good leader. So, in Stockdale in 1974, identified the following traits and skills which are critical to be a quality leader. And what are those? Adaptable to situations. Okay, adaptable to the situation. The skills required for this: to be clever, to be intelligent. They need to be alert to the social environment. For example, now things are getting a lot of IT getting involved, so they need to be aware of it. They need to be alert about the technological changes, and they need to be conceptually scared about those changes. Ambitious and achievement oriented they should be, and the skills required for that, they need to be creative. Okay, they need to be assertive, that is, and the skills required for it is diplomatic and tactful. They need to be cooperative, that is, and the skills required for it, fluent in speaking, so that communication will be, it should be effective. The traits further requires are decisive. So they need to know about the knowledge about the group task. The traits further required are they need to be dependable. That mean, and the skills required are they need to be organized. They should have administrative ability. They need to be dominant. That means desire to influence others. And the skills required are they need to be persuasive. They need to be energetic, highly activity level they need. They should be socially skilled. That's the skill required for them. They need to be persistent. They need to be self-confident. They need to be they should be able to tolerate the stress, and they should be willing to assume their responsibility. Okay. So in this further, now we have another writer, that is McCall and Lombardo. In 1983, they identified four primary traits by which leaders could succeed. Okay, one, emotional stability and composure. In this regard, they need to be calm in pressure situations. They need to be confident, and they need to be and predictable, particularly when there is a stressful situation. Okay, admitting error, owning up to mistakes. If they make their mistake, they should own it. They should, okay, I did the mistake. Now I will rectify it, and they should not cover up. They should admit it, and they should come with the rectifying plan for it. Okay. Then good interpersonal skills. Okay, they should be able to communicate and persuade others without resorting to negative or corrective tactics. They should persuade others, they should communicate it, and they should. Okay, then intellectual breadth. They should able to understand wide range of areas rather than having a narrow-minded area of expertise. Expertise. So while some traits that affect leadership effectively, such as age and appearance, cannot always be developed, others can be improved, according to the Johnson, Vernon, and McCarthy. So, what are the Ader's quality approach? That is another writer. Okay, so in 2005, Ader suggests that there are two types of qualities that makes good leaders. One, the representative qualities. Okay, that depends on the particular organization. For example, in the military, leaders would be expected to display bravery. Generic qualities would apply to all leaders. And what are those qualities? According to Ader, they should have enthusiasm. There should be integrity. There should be toughness coupled with fairness. There should be humanity, not being a cold fish. They should be confident, but not overconfidence. There should be humility. There should be courage. Eder warns against assuming that good leaders should display of these qualities, but does suggest that all good leaders would display enthusiasm and energy or integrity. Now, what is transformational leadership? So transformational leaders aim to achieve organizational change and improvement by impacting the culture of the organization. Okay. Uh, the supporters of transformational theories of organizational change believes people will follow a person who inspires them. So you should be inspiring. A person with vision and passion can achieve great things, right? If you have a vision, if you have a passion, no matter what, you can achieve anything. Right? So you need to be visionary, you need to be passionate, You should not be, you should be consistent no matter what. Sometimes you will fall down, sometimes there will be a tough situations, but you need to be consistent. You need to be passionate. You need to be no matter what. You need to be like no matter what. I will achieve. I will do it. And you should keep working on it. You should keep inspiring others. So the way to things get done is by injecting enthusiasm and energy. You should not be like, keep it to yourself. You should transfer it to your followers as well. Okay. No, now the stages of transformational leadership. So the first step is the development of a vision. What's your vision? Okay. A view of the future, which will excite, convert your potential followers in it. The next step, which in fact never stops, is to constantly sell the vision. Sell your vision, that what you want to achieve in the society and all. Keep telling others, keep telling, influence over it. And this takes energy and commitment. Continuous, this will take your continuous energy. This will require your continuous commitment, as few people will immediately buy into a radical vision. Okay. The transformational leader must take every opportunity and will use whatever works to convince others to come on board and create trust to create followers. Create trust. You need to create trust to create your followers. The leader's personal integrity is part of the package he is selling. In fact, the leader sells himself as well as the vision. Remember this. That's the life lesson for you folks. If you want to be somewhere, you need to sell yourself. You need to sell your vision. You have to be consistent. You have to be energetic. You have to transfer your energy. Authentic leadership. Now, what is authentic leadership? Number one, you need to the public trust. Financial crisis in 2008 severely damaged public trust in business leaders, a trust that had already been damaged by the corporate governance scandals of Enron, the WorldCom. A few years earlier, authentic leadership can be seen as responsible to public perception of corporate self-interest, with leaders showing a greater interest in social issues and desire to make a positive, lasting contribution. Self awareness. Intent of authentic leadership is that leader cannot be authentic while trying to imitate another person. So the first step in authentic leadership is to know themselves. This involves understanding the intrinsic motivators, the values, the beliefs that drive, and being consistent in their leadership decisions. Authentic leaders also need self awareness to identify their weakness and overcome them. Then practice. Leadership shows itself in the actions that are taken. Okay, especially when you are under pressure. A consistent application of stated values promotes trust and better interpersonal relationship. A leader, one of the tasks of a strategic leader or a leader is to lead. You have to be innovative. You have to lead innovations and identify new strategic opportunities. Now, what is innovation? The conversion of new knowledge into a new product. The conversion of a new knowledge into new product, process of service, and the putting of this new product, process or service into the actual use. Innovation means more than just inventing new products. It also involves designing, manufacturing processes, and bringing the product to the market. Innovation may be driven by scientific research that identifies new possibilities. For example, pharmaceutical company developing a new drug, or the customer, or by customers who demand new products or additional features in existing products. Now, what is entrepreneurship? Which is the type of the organization to take advantage of innovations and new strategic opportunities, existing business organization, or new ventures. Entrepreneurship involves individuals, teams, or organization identifying and exploiting business opportunities. Now, what is the entrepreneurial life cycle? Entrepreneurial involves the creation of a new enterprise, and it is the source of many new innovations. New ventures commonly pass through a four-stage life cycle. One, the startup. The main objective of this is survival and growth. The entrepreneurs need to raise capital to support the development of the innovation. Venture capitalists may be persuaded to invest in the business. Okay. Then growth. The number of employee rises, typically above 20. All this stage, the role of the entrepreneur change as more management is required. Maturity. When the growth of the original innovation slows as peak sales are reached, the entrepreneurs need to look for new products or services to fuel future growth, then exit from the venture. That is, original investors or founding entrepreneurs or both leave the venture and sell it to another party to realize the fruits of their labor. Now, what are the advantages of entrepreneurship? The founders of the venture are motivated to make a business a success as they have a financial stake in the business. This can bring great personal satisfaction. Entrepreneurs are free from bureaucratic organizational controls, so crucial decisions can be made quickly. Creative freedom to experiment with new ideas and opportunities to gain um a thorough understanding of the business. Now, what are the drawbacks or you can say disadvantages? Potential lack of capital and financial discipline may lead to rapid cash burn, resulting in business failure before the product reaches break-even point. Lack of market research could mean that the entrepreneur makes products that nobody wants to buy, involves great time commitment, and can be very stressful. Entrepreneurship. The application of entrepreneurial principles within an established organization. What are the advantages? Established firms have more financial resources and management expertise than entrepreneurs. This increases chances of the innovations being completed, brought to market. Also, more and better people, more marketing expertise, larger technology base, higher employees morale, improves efficiency and performance. Now, what are the disadvantages? A lack of entrepreneurial culture to support such new innovations. Managers feel more comfortable managing existing operations and perhaps making incremental changes to these. The people with the ideas may need to be very persistent to persuade the decision makers of the advantage of their new ideas. Not all organizations are responsive to new ideas. Remember that. Now, leadership and governance. Governance, what is governance means? It is a system by which organizations are managed and controlled, and leaders manage organization on behalf of many stakeholders. For commercial organization, then the needs of the shareholder may take priority, but other stakeholder interests must also be considered. It is desirable that leaders display certain ethical and professional values in order to ensure that governance is carried out effectively as described in the next section in the next area. Okay. So, what are the key undermining concepts? Those we have, as you can see, fairness, openness and transparency, innovation, skepticism, independence, probity and honesty, responsibility, accountability, judgment, integrity, and reputation. So, fair means it is a concept of fairness means that there should be equality and handedness in leaders, deliberation with the ability to reach equitable judgment in any given ethical situation. Therefore, the rights of various groups, stakeholders have to be acknowledged and respected. For example, Minority share owner interest must receive equal consideration through those of the dominant share owners. Openness and transparency means investors and stakeholders need to be able to obtain a true picture of what is happening inside the company. Therefore, requires the director should make a necessary information available in a candid, accurate, and timely manner. Leaders should therefore develop an appropriate culture, company at all levels, strategic and operational, that is innovation should be, involve innovative in the way they apply good governance practices, not just a case of following the rules or doing the same last year, but ensuring that stakeholders and the society as a whole have increased understanding of and benefit from governance procedures. For example, a greater openness and transparency in reporting to stakeholders, society, thorough, innovative, web-based application and integrated reports. As far as skepticism requires the questioning mind, a critical assessment of facts and evidences. So the one key element of good governance is oversight role applied, non-executive directors and shareholders, especially institutional shareholders, for example, non-executive directors should constructively challenge and develop proposals on strategy. To do so requires appropriate levels of skepticism. Independence. Decisions made, internal processes established should be objectives and not allow for a undue influence or over personal motivation to prevail. Mechanism should be put in place to minimize or avoid potential conflicts, interests that may exist. So threaten independence decision making. For example, separation of roles of CEO and chairman, chairperson of the board. Independent non-executive should be there, use of internal and external auditors, the audit committees, the audit committee, etc. Okay, they should be probability and honesty. Probability is fundamental to governance systems involving integrity, honor, worth, fair dealings. It implies not misleading shareholders. For example, shareholders, the market implies a high level that CEO, the chief executive, provides all appropriate information to fellow executive directors and NADs. Responsibility, that is a willingness by management to accept liability for the outcome of the governance decisions. Although board is ultimately accountable to the shareholders, the board must act responsibly, responsive, sorry, responsive, uh, sorry, yeah, uh, responsively to and with responsibility towards all stakeholders of the company. Accountability, individuals or groups in a company who make decisions, take actions on specific issues, need to be accountable for their decisions and actions. Judgment. Entities operate in complex and diverse range of events, activities, and environments. Achieve objectives require a series of decisions to be made on a solid and sound judgment of the relevant information, environment in which entity operates. So, professional accountant should not knowing be associated with reports, written communications, or other information. Accountant believes that the information contains materiality, false, or misleading statements. So, it should contain statements or information provided recklessly or omits or obstacles required information where such omissions or obscurity would be misleading. Then the reputation. Although reputation has both a personal and entity aspect, entity reputation depends heavily on the reputation of its managers and employees. And entity reputation is effectively the cumulative result of all of the intervening concepts, which are closely interrelated. So now the culture, the organizational culture, the deeper the level of basic assumptions, beliefs that are shared by the members of an Organization that operate unconsciously defining the basic taken for granted fashion organization's view of itself and its environment. One of the example of it is for the body shop. That is the, Anila Rodriguez. As you know, there are she's the Indian, the founder is the Indian, and so they actually against the use of animals in the manufacturing, in the making of the makeups and all. So even the testing on animals, they feels like it's prohibited, and they actually start doing it on animals. So it's their beliefs and their assumptions which they have carried out. It's their culture. Same way, the Cadbury, the chocolates, they, as you know, uh, they are also from this background, the Asian background, and they feel that the use of the animals in the chocolates is prohibited. So they made the chocolates out of the pure milk and all. Still, that's their culture, and it's been carried out throughout. Another example, the McDonald's. The Ronald McDonald was against the culture of that people coming into the restaurants, and they are just having their lunches and dinners and their meals, and they are after that they are just having a good time sitting there for a long time. So he introduced the McDonald's, and he brought the culture over there that people should come, take their meal, eat, they throw it to the dustbins, trashes, and leave. That culture all over the globe is still there. So, organizational leaders have an important role to play in defining and shape the organization culture, as I give you the example, right? So, particularly, it need to be changed. If it need to be changed, it should not be changed altogether at once. It should be changed systematically. So, if management should define a desired culture, this must be consistent with the strategy of the company. For example, can do culture to match a strategy of exceptional customer service. The mission of the organization and any corporate codes issued by leaders will have a large impact on the beliefs and values shared by staff, and this will affect the culture. The equipment practices and matrices used in the staff appraisals will need to be consistent with the organization's strategy, and this will affect the culture as well. So, the work of three academics is assumed knowledge brought forward from the business and technology. Now, that is a handy's four cultural stereotypes, the power culture. Power is concentrated in the hands of the boss. Okay. Then the role culture, a traditional structure in which jobs are arranged by the functions and seniority, and each employee has a distinct role and job specification. Then there is a task culture, emphasizes on the getting the job done. Then the person culture, the employee follows a personal ambition in the context of the organization and interacts with the organization as little as possible. Then Scan's determinants of the organizational culture. We have artifacts, influence that can be seen, for example, how people dress, the layout of the office, the way in which people behave, infused values, the strategies, goals, and objectives of the organization. For example, an emphasis on low cost or excellent service, basic assumptions and values taken for granted beliefs, a paradigm. Hofstede international perspective. Power distance cultures that favor low power distance expect power relations to the relatively consultative or democratic. In high power distance countries, the less powerful accept more relations that are more autocratic. Individualism versus collectivism. Individual societies place stress on personal achievements. In collectivist societies, individuals act predominantly as members of a group or team. And then there is uncertainty avoidance. People in cultures with high uncertainty avoidance tends to be more cautious and proceed by the careful planning. Low uncertainty avoidance culture feel relatively comfortable making unstructured situations, dealing with the changing and novel environments. Long-term organization orientation versus short-term orientation. Long-term orientation cultures attach importance to the future, place emphasis on persistence, flexibility, and a willingness to change. Short-term oriented cultures emphasize tradition and meeting social expectations. Masculinity versus femininity. That is, masculine cultures include competitiveness and assertiveness. Feminist culture includes place greater emphasis on relationships and consensus. Now we have the cultural web. The cultural web, a useful tool for analyzing the culture of organization in the cultural web. This involves examining different aspects of the organization, considering what these say about the culture and its values. In essence, it is more detailed list of the factors identified by Sechan artifacts, exposure values, basic assumptions, and values. And what are those stories, symbols, power structure, organizational structure, control systems, rituals, and routines? Now, so what stories? What are the stories like? I tell you about the stories of the forming of the organization, such as I give you the example of over here McDonald's, Cadbury, etc. Nor the symbols, either it is masculine or it is feminist and all. The power structures, what sort of power structure, either it is, uh, who is the power structure, who is actually influencing the power of the organization, what are the organizational structures, either it is functional, either it is, geographical or the new networking, the control system, who have the controls, what are the routines and the rituals they are following. Okay. So the impact of the culture on the strategy, the culture of an organization being in entrenched set of beliefs may help or hinder appropriate strategies. Cultural clue refers to benefits. Cultures have any motivating employees. Then they have captured by culture means that existing culture may prevent the organization from making bigger strategic changes when required. Okay, culture reflects the beliefs their thing should be done, how it should be done, or it should be entrance organization may be reluctant to try different things in order to adopt new strategies where external environment changes dramatically. An organization response might be to continue with the existing strategy. This can lead to a strategic drift. Okay, what is strategic drift? The changes in the environment, the gap between the environment and your current strategy, that is strategic drift. So impacts of ethics on strategy, although organizations traditionally only consider their responsibility towards shareholders, their activities may affect much wider group of stakeholders. The minimum obligations that an organization has towards stakeholders will determine by law and other regulatory frameworks. Ethical stance of organization determine to what extent it stress and exceeds its minimum obligations toward their stakeholders. Okay, cultural and organizational configuration. We have Mintzberg components, we have strategic attacks, technostructure, support staff, operating core, strategic apex, that is full-time top managers. Operating core, the operating group, that means who are involved into the day-to-day operations of the organization. Middle line, the middle management. Then we have technostructures that is directed towards standardization of the work staff. Then we have support staff, indirect support, operating force of the organization. So Mintzberg suggested five categories of organization structure. Simple structure, this is centralized and often autocratic with power coming from strategic apex control, typically exerted by the chief executive or small influential executive team. Machine bureaucracy, this structure is common in mass manufacture. It relies heavily on a strong technostructure. Professional bureaucracy, similar to machinery, bureaucracy is imposed by external standards. Divisionalized form, small central core provides guidance for the business units. Adhocracy, based or with project, has to be respond quickly, flexibility, changing demands, driven by the market or innovation. Interaction of configuration and cultures and configurations go hand in hand. Culture affects strategy and purpose. We need to understand the configurations are not just structures, nor even just a power system. They are culture. For example, tall narrow hierarchical structure will usually imply role culture, machine bureaucracy with great emphasis on control symbols, titles, power relations, etc. Okay, so cultural clashes, examples of situation in which a cultural clash could arise include there is a power culture that a new employee tried unsuccessfully to change to a role culture. New director attempted to change both structure and culture to the fury of established personnel. Inappropriate culture and configuration. An example of situation could result in inappropriate culture and configuration include if organizations want to change its generic strategy from cost leadership to differentiation. Almost certainly, both culture and configuration have to be changed. Where the work routines effectively exclude female staff and customers are treated as lazy and incompetent. So the survival of some organization is threatened by clinging to culture, and there is no longer appropriate either within the industry sector or within society as a whole. Culture and configuration have to be changed to allow survival. Different stages of organization life cycle. There may be situations illustrating how business culture structure. The company may have started in an entrepreneurial power culture in a charismatic leader who recruited like-minded people. Formal controls could have been non-existent. Later, it could be listed and inevitably have to adopt much more of a role culture controls. So controls will become tighter and public scrutiny will affect rituals, symbols, and organizational paradigm. Finally, founder could buy back the company and try to turn the clock back to earlier happier days, but the staff then employed may dislike those changes. So the change management here culture or organization structure has to be changed. The problem of change management arises how can employee and other stakeholders be encouraged to willingly embrace the change? Nature of the strategic change, it's depend on the scope of the change. If there is a realignment, that means the change can be affected within the current business model without a significant change in culture, or there is a transformational, that means a complete change in the business model, and there should be a change required in change culture as well. So the nature of change need to be looked. That is the scope of the change, the nature of the change. So if there is a big bang, nature of change, and in scope of change, then that reconstruction if required. If there is an incremental uh, advanced side and other side as well, then adoption is required. If the nature of change is low, scope of change is high, that is evolution. If the both are high, then revolution is required. So four stages, as you can see, adoption, the most common type of change. It does not require development of a new paradigm, proceeds by step. Reconstruction can also be undertaken with an existing paradigm, but requires rapid and extensive action. Okay, then we have evolution. It is an incremental process that leads to a new paradigm. It may arise from careful analysis, planning, or maybe the rest of learning processes. Revolution is a rapid and wide-ranging response. A long period of strategic drift may lead to a crisis that can only be dealt with in this way. Revolution will be very obvious and is likely to affect most aspects of both what the organization does and how it does it. Then we have learning style. We Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington. Identify five leadership styles that can be used in managing strategic change, education and communication. Okay, explanation of the reasons and means of strategic change. That is collaboration of participation, involvement of those who will be affected by strategic change, intervention, coordination, and attorney over processes of change, direction, use of top-down managerial authority, coercion, imposition of change, or issuing edicts about change. Now, change in it is the one who either it can be individual or group that helps to bring about strategic change in the organization. So we need some style for it, education and communication. That means group brings assume internalization of strategic logic. Benefits are overcome lack of information. Problems are it is time consuming, direction or project progress may be unclear. Okay, then we have collaboration and participation. It involves in setting the strategy agenda, resolving strategy issues. Okay, what are the benefits? Increase ownership of a decision or process. What are the problem? Again, time consuming. Solutions or outcome within an existing paradigm. Incremental change or long time horizontal transformational change required. Uh, there could be intervention, that is change agent retains coordination, control, delegates elements of a change, use of authority to set direction, means of change, explicit use of power. Benefits are power is guided, controlled, and take place. There should be clarity and speed, may be successful in crisis or state of confusion. What are the problems? Least successful, crisis and transformational change or change and establish or to create culture. So far, so good, and I hope it is clear to you. Uh, if you have any questions and all, you can ask me. If you guys still don't have my WhatsApp, here it is. For out of Pakistan, it is +92 302 177 7706. And if you're from Pakistan, then 0302 177 7706. So that's my WhatsApp. See you in the next lesson very soon. Till then, take care. Bye bye.